Today, Iran is at the forefront of global news due to its conflict with Israel and America. Despite being overwhelmingly outmatched by the military and financial might of their foes, the Iranian people remain resolute in the face of their nation's integrity being sullied. The country's history is rich and long, but the formation of a national consciousness really gained momentum in the 19th century as nationalism came into vogue. Like much of the Islamic world, Iranian nationalism was molded by the pressures of European imperialism. Then, under the rule of the Pahlavis, the ideology would reach its zenith as greater shares of profit from its oil industry saw the country become a beacon of prosperity in the region. But nationalism's greatest blunder was always going to be its relationship with Islam, which was often trampled upon in the quest for modernization. In 1979, the conflict between these two ideological monoliths came to a head as Ayatollah Khomeini spearheaded the Islamic Revolution. Under the Qajar dynasty, Persia suffered from many of the same woes that afflicted the Ottoman Empire throughout the 19th century. However, Persia's modernization process was even slower. The increasing gap in European and Middle Eastern military capabilities became apparent when Russia resoundingly defeated the Qajars twice, forcing them to cede control of the southern Caucasus. This region had been under Persian control for centuries, and the Shahs regarded it as integral to their domain in the same light as the Iranian mainland. Nasser al-Din Shah, who ruled from 1848, brought some modern technology to Iran, but the state remained rather feudal. With a standing army of only a few thousand soldiers, the country was essentially divided into fiefdoms, where local tribal chiefs and notables would tax farms. Oftentimes, they would abuse their power, and the anger of the citizens went to the monarch and his institution. Furthermore, because he did not have the means to enforce his laws, Nasser al-Din struggled to raise revenue for the state. The country's misery was seen as a golden opportunity for the two powers who coveted Persia, Russia and Britain, in order to gain an economic foothold. As in the Ottoman Empire, concessions and capitulations infested Persia and debilitated the country. In 1872, in a move that reeked of financial illiteracy, Nasser al-Din Shah sold a concession to Baron Julius Reuter, which gave him the sole right to construct mines, railways, dams, roads, and industrial plants at the price of $200,000, which is roughly equivalent to about $5 million today, as well as 60% of the profits. British statesman Lord Curzon called it the most complete and extraordinary surrender of the entire industrial resources of a kingdom into foreign hands that has probably ever been dreamed of, much less accomplished in history. Thankfully for Iran, public outrage reached the point that the Shah was forced to back down. When the Shah tried offering the control of the entire Persian tobacco trade to a Brit in 1891, the people had had enough. It was not only the state's coffers that suffered from concessions, but the citizens as well. The bazaris, merchants and artisans who once prospered could not compete against these extravagant monopolies, and the selling off of an industry that employed 200,000 people stung. The Grand Ayatollah of the land, Mirza Muhammad Hassan Shirazi, issued a fatwa banning tobacco's consumption, effectively starting a nationwide boycott. Commoners, clergy, merchants, and intellectuals threw their weight behind the protests. It's said that even the Shah's wives barred him from smoking. The concession was overturned, but this event was the start of something much bigger: Iranian nationalism. The entire nation, with all of its classes and ethnicities, had cooperated to overturn a foreign encroachment. Soon the people would identify the system itself as the problem, rather than just the Europeans. The Shah was assassinated in 1896, but change had not come about yet. Instead, it took yet another concession in 1905 to cause a revolution. The new monarch, Muzaffar al-Din Shah, continued in his father's footsteps by mismanaging the country's finances. In 1901, he sold a monopoly over oil exploration in central and southern Persia to British businessman William Darcy. This deal would play a big role in precipitating the revolutionary politics of Muhammad Mossadegh some 4 decades later. To make matters worse, the new Shah took out massive loans from Britain and Russia to pay for the government's expenditure. As a result, he was forced to hand over the entire customs system to a Belgian named Monsieur Naus. Rumours abounded that he would impose even steeper tariffs on the Bazaris, setting the scene for a revolution in 1905. After some violence, defections ensued, and the Shah was forced to cave. He simply did not have the funds or manpower to stop the revolution. Soon, a parliament with sweeping powers was introduced. The Majlis, as it was known, was represented with many ideologies. And on December 30th, 1906, the Shah signed the constitution, which was modelled on the Belgian constitution. Amidst this political diversity, almost all factions had a nationalist tilt. A royalist coup in 1908 led by Muzaffar's successor, Muhammad Ali, briefly succeeded before being thrown out by mainly Bakhtiari tribal soldiers in 1909. But as is often the case with Middle Eastern states that initially enter into parliamentary democracy, the Majlis descended into internal conflict. The line separating the moderates and the liberals became more pronounced, as both sides dug their heels in and became less willing to compromise. The issue surrounding religiosity and secularism featured prominently. Seeing chaos reduce the central government to ineptitude, the provinces erupted in tribal warfare as various tribes and ethnicities tried to assert their own authority on their territories. The same tribal leaders who won the country back dominated different parts of Persia, negotiating separately with the foreigners and not enforcing state laws. Out of frustration, the Majlis was shut down in 1911 when a force of 12,000 Russian soldiers forced it to dissolve. The revolution might have been over, but for the desire and drive of a more representative and efficient form of governance in Iran, this was only the beginning. Over the course of the 20th century, there would be 2 more major revolutions that sought to achieve the aims set out by the constitutionalists at the beginning of the century. This democratic experiment, unique in the region, was spurred on by intellectuals who were sent on scholarships to study in France and Belgium. Apart from their degrees, they obtained an understanding of nationalism that would be integral to Iranian politics for decades to come. Like its French counterpart, Iranian nationalism was initially political territorial, focusing on the state of Iran and its sovereignty rather than ethnic ambitions. Moreover, dozens of newspapers sprung up during this 6-year period, which further spread a sense of unity and political awareness amongst Iranians from all walks of life. During World War I, Persia was occupied by the Ottomans, Russians, and British at various times. The economy was ruined, and many peasants were now forced laborers for the army, causing a famine that killed up to 2 million people. The inability of the Qajars to defend and maintain the country's sovereignty led to a certain Reza Pahlavi, head of the elite Cossack brigade, to mount a coup in 1921. In 1925, he declared himself Shah and embarked on modernizing the country by building infrastructure, expanding education, and creating a real military. Western influences on Reza Shah were clearly visible over his near 20-year reign of Iran. The nation went into a significantly more secular direction, as seen through his decisions to shut down many Islamic madrasas and Christian missionary schools, and his royal decree prohibiting women from wearing the traditional Islamic chador. He also sought to unify the country under a Persian identity at the expense of the country's minorities, and ruled absolutely. Modernizing autocrats in this period viewed the homogenization of their state as a key principle of nation building. In fact, the modern name Iran, meaning the land of the Aryans, was adopted in 1935, displaying the nationalist trend occurring at this time. Reza Shah's reign ended abruptly when he refused to disavow relations with Germany in World War II, leading to his overthrow by a Soviet-British invasion in 1941. His son, Muhammad Reza Shah, also embarked on a modernization program whilst ruling as a ruthless autocrat. He aimed to promote himself as the benevolent ruler of a new Persian empire, but could not shake off the allegations that he was a Western puppet by his people. Especially pertinent to this is when Muhammad Mossadegh was elected Prime Minister in 1951. Mossadegh ran on nationalizing the oil industry. In yet another comical concession, the British retained the vast majority of profits made from Iranian oil. He did this successfully and was wildly popular for it. Unfortunately, the price he had to pay was the MI6 and CIA collaborating with royalists to overthrow him in 1953, restoring Muhammad Reza Shah to absolute rule. The second part of the Shah's reign would see him take Iran's modernization into high gear, due to the increased stake in its own oil, which had been renegotiated to 50% in the aftermath of the fiasco with Mossadegh. In 1963, the Shah introduced the White Revolution, a series of sweeping reforms centered on land reform. Iran experienced a level of prosperity not seen in over 2 centuries, as the nation saw an annual growth of nearly 10%. Eventually, the Pahlavi's corruption took away from their credibility as reformers. So too did the repressive atmosphere cultivated by the Shah's Savak secret police. This political climate, coupled with an economic downturn in 1977, led to revolution in 1978. Under the leadership of the enigmatic Ayatollah Khomeini, the ulama redirected the revolutionary energy into a theocratic direction. The modern Islamic Republic of Iran was born in 1979. As a result, the power of nationalism has been contained by the Ayatollah's regime. But with a history as rich as Iran's and a national consciousness as alive as in Iran, do not be surprised if nationalism makes a comeback.
Thank you guys for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for always supporting. If you want to financially support Hikmah History, there's a link to my Patreon in the description to this video. Until next time, peace!